Our report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into every living room a selling machine.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Kinescope, where we take a look at the era of live television before videotape. John Sutras here, Gabe Hardman here, Ian Brill here, Jeff Parker here. Very excited about today's subject, guys. It's really one of my favorite Playhouse 90s from January of 1959. Rod Serling's The Velvet Alley, directed by Franklin Schaffner.
Yeah, we're back talking about Rod Serling again, but for a good reason. I mean, he did amazing work at this period of time, in this pre-Twilight Zone period of time, and this is 1959. This episode, so this is very late in the run, of Playhouse 90. It's pretty soon he'll be doing the Twilight Zone, and so
same year.
And so
59.
It's this in a lot of ways. This is a kind of fictional summation of his time in live television. Looking back on it, he's always a sentimental guy, right? That Rod Serling is he's always got that huge vein of sentimentality going through everything. So he's always looking back. So I think that's a lot what he's doing here.
No question, it's a great cast. Art Carney, Jack Klugman, Leslie Nielsen, David White, Larry Tate from Bewitched.
I was going to say the Darren's boss.
Yeah. Yep.
And right away, and I had totally forgot about this until Gabe mentioned it earlier this week when we were going back and forth.
Mickey Dolenz.
Yep.
Very young Mickey Dolenz. Yeah.
Wait, where was Mickey Dolenz?
He's the little kid.
He's the kid.
He's the kid at the beginning.
There he is, right there.
He's that little kid who looks like Mickey Dolenz.
Exactly.
You know what? It's the hair. It's the hair that threw me off.
That awesome crew cut that you could balance a stack of plates on, and they would.
Yeah.
He looks just like every kid Alex Toth would draw around that time, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great cast up and down, man. I mean, really, it's really a top-level cast.
Absolutely. So, since John has already said what he thought about this, I don't tend to want to give John extra time to talk about what he thinks about things. Let's go to Jeff Parker. What are your feelings on the Velvet Alley?
It's great. I mean, everybody in this just really brings a great performance. Art Carney, it's funny, like no one thinks of him as a serious actor. It's like, watch this. I mean,
yeah,
he sells the hell out of the poor writer who catches a break, And by the way, this is what happens to every writer, everybody. There are a couple of bits I kind of cracked up about, like where Klugman as Max, his agent, says something early on to him about like your beautiful mind or whatever. I forget what it is, but he says something about it. It's a very glowing thing about writers. But then you realize it's because he's going to bring the hammer down on him and,
of course,
and show how he alienates everybody who's important in his life on his quest to matter.
Yep.
Can't relate to it. It's hard to, but God, Klugman's so good in it.
He is
Klugman is brilliant in this, right?
He's the
like
heart.
This is, I know everybody, the Twilight Zones and the Odd Couple and all that sort of stuff, but I think you really get a glimpse of how great Klugman was in this episode. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And Serling gives him such great bits.
Yeah.
Like when he comes in and he doesn't even feel he's the one who should, tell Art Carney that he's sold these scripts. Like it gets his wife and he's sitting down and having an emotional moment and everything. There's so much good stuff.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So Ian, what are your big feelings about the Velvet Alley?
Well, first of all, I have to say, like Jack Klugman, I'm here out of love, not greed. That is a reference to, if you've ever seen Jack Klugman's bit in the golden age of TV.
You need two hands. There's no way you're going to do this.
When he just right.
I didn't mean to destroy everything, but
Like a Ed Wood.
so there's a bit that Jack Klugman hosts on this where he's dressed like Gilligan for some reason.
Yes, right. Yes.
And he starts it. I believe, is he talking about 12 Angry Men, the original 12 Angry Men?
I think Requiem. I think
No,
that's
yeah,
Requiem.
it's one that
Requiem
he's
for heavyweight.
Yeah, it's one he's not in. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Requiem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the beginning of it, he says, "I'm here out of love, not greed," which means like, wait, so every other time we saw you on TV,
I put the money.
I think he's just saying this is on PBS and I'm not getting paid.
Well, that's
like
you're right about that.
Yeah.
But also, again, I mean, he was proud of his live TV work.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
he goes on. He goes like, "We had real writers dead."
I wish.
Yes.
I
It's
wish
great.
He's right.
I wish one of the Petrified Forest. I believe he's only in one of the productions, but they redid the Humphrey Bogart classic. They did it for television, and Klugman was in it with Bogart, and obviously a very young actor because this is 7 years before Velvet Alley. But I mean, that's the great thing, man. I mean, he was this all-star character actor, as you know, Gabe, too. After the live
Mm-hmm.
television era follows Reginald Rose who did The Defenders.
Yeah.
And he won an Emmy for drama as a blacklisted writer, kind of in the same milieu as Velvet Alley. And it's
Right.
Or an actor, excuse me, maybe it was a blacklisted actor. But no, man, I mean, that's the thing. You're right. I mean, he had literally probably almost 2 decades of dramatic roles, and then becomes quintessential Oscar Madison right there with Matthau, and then Quincy, of course. And Quincy back to drama, and we make fun of Quincy, but for its time, Quincy.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but I don't feel like it's Quincy is not something where he's always going to be Quincy. He's Quincy at the beginning, he's Quincy at the end. Quincy doesn't die. Quincy doesn't have Quincy doesn't have elegant insights into things.
No,
like
you're right.
it just it's only going to be what it's going to be. And and that's fine. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that he can. I think that he had a level of kind of like rawness and there's just something going on there in this performance that we are somehow still appreciating through the kinescope and the fact that apparently this version of it was just copied back and forth between 2 VCRs like 30 times before we watched it. Right? It is the quality is such garbage, and yet his it's still coming through from the platform.
I know. I kind of wish UCLA would do whatever they can to scrub this and bring out. I don't know what they can.
Well, I mean, it would just if somebody had a print of a decent quality print of the kinescope would be the closest that they could do to anything. I mean, short of some nightmarish AI upresing thing, which is not good. But I mean but I didn't really say what I thought about it.
Yes,
I think it's great. I think it's really good. Obviously there are things about Serling, and I love Rod Serling, right? But there, if there's a thing that bugs me a little bit, it's the way that everybody can just ends up talking like Rod Serling wrote the there's not a hell of a lot of differentiation between the characters and them kind of apart from what the actors are bringing to it, they all kind of feel like Rod Serling's words are kind of stuck in their mouth. But I don't think that's a problem at all. The only real downside I think to this is the wife. I think that in one of those little behind the scenes type or mini documentaries on that set that Ian was holding, the Golden Age set, Kim Hunter talked about Rod Serling being and I've mentioned this before on the show, but like him not really being able to write for female characters, on the level that he could for the male characters. And I think that shows probably a little too much in this. Yes, it was the 50s. Yes, all of those cultural things were there, but her character just doesn't have the punch. And the autonomy. She just isn't written as a full character. She's just written as the wife. And I think that's a little underserved, no matter what. Politics aside, just dramatically, it underserves the material a little bit, I think.
Catherine Bard played Carney's wife in the show. The surprise for me, another guy that showed more depth than we ever give him credit for, and we forget about his great career as a dramatic performer, and that, of course, is Leslie Nielsen.
Oh yeah,
You know,
he's awesome.
Absolutely, man.
Probably better than anything I've ever seen him in. I mean, so much of the stuff that he's in, not his fault, but
No.
he's cast as stiffs,
Yeah,
And,
I love him.
before his comedy era stuff, like the earlier part of his career, he's mostly just cast as kind of bland, either leading man or whatever sort of.
We love him in Forbidden Planet. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that
but,
template for space opera captain and everything. But no, you're
here,
right.
Here you really see what he can do.
Yeah, you really do.
That 1,000 a week speech that he gives to Art Carney about, first you're grateful, then you need to live on it. You're right. I mean, and that is classic Serling kind of dialogue. But again, I know you said that that's not a bad thing. It reminds me too of a show that comes in the 60s, Route 66, and how Sterling Silliphant's dialogue was very specific as well.
Absolutely. And, this was also the style of the, especially like the, the mid 50s, 50s through the mid 60s, that kind of, sort of florid. We got this in The Outer Limits with Joseph Stefano. The, a little bit too much, a little bit too stylized, but still great, something you really, wonderful and you can enjoy. But
echoes of patterns as well in this story, I believe.
Yeah.
In terms of, obviously it's more
Hollywood,
but it really is still, beware the corporate teat and its seductive.
Yeah. And I just want to say one thing about the Leslie Nielsen of it all is that he was also playing drunk, right? And which is like, talk about a trap to fall into, right? And but he did a great job. So like one thing with Serling, and I'll shut up, but like one thing with Serling is that that early on you mentioned patterns. Like there was talk in the industry that Serling didn't really write that, like that that it was rewritten by others, and that maybe this guy didn't just come from nowhere and do this great thing, right? You read this in like the there's like an oral history book of of the early TV era that I read, and and I think that just out of a level, I think it was just maybe there was some rewriting on it by other people, but like but I think to a degree it's just out of a kind of who's this kid coming from no place? Who's this guy coming from no place? He probably isn't this good, and then he very much proved them to be wrong. But I think that I'm sure that those kind of insecurities played into the material that he's working with.
Serling nails so many of the Hollywood stereotypes, and like the first one you see when they're still in New York is the writer who won't stop pitching just any bullshit.
Yeah,
he's like zombies, but they're up in in space. And
it's a great yarn. She marries a guy. It just seems like he's he's walking on his heels, but he whatever the fuck that means, and but it turns out he's a zombie.
And that little bit, and the doctor says, "Hey, Cat, you need to zip zap him," or whatever, and then the guy goes, "Who is the doctor? Scatman Crothers?" And it's like good topical reference there.
Good topical reference, yeah, and also like putting the lie to my bullshit about all the Serling characters sounding the same, because he's calling out the way that he.
That's why I wanted to bring him up. Like this guy actually had his own voice, and then Leslie Nielsen did. Like I love the way when is Nielsen. He's not Freddie. Freddie's Darren's boss.
Yeah,
right. David White. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. What's Leslie Nielsen's name in this?
Stand by. Where they are. Ed Kirkley.
Oh, Kirkley, that's what it is. Yeah. As soon as you see Kirkley, he's immediately showing you his character perfectly. Like he's like, "What the hell was this? It was too long. It didn't work." And then when people start coming up telling him how great it is, he turns on a dime.
Yeah.
Like, you liked it? Yeah. And it's like
great stuff.
And then by the time he finally reaches Art Carney, he's going up and glad handing him all over the place and everything.
Just like the hopeless insecurity, the fact that he doesn't have any barometer for what's good. He's just
he has no idea what's good.
Yeah.
Would you guys characterize this as a writer's noir?
I mean, I suppose you could say that. But I mean, it has a
somebody dies in it, I guess.
Well, and
yeah, but I mean, okay, so it fits the criteria in that it's sort of a tragic story, right? I mean, it's a it's a guy who rises up, and the way that he falls is not is an internal thing. It's about, the way that he disappoints and fucks over everybody around him.
Yeah.
I mean, I would actually go for that. Like the worst definition of noir is always like these really superficial trappings of it and everything. And everything that's good about noir is about the way that, like people undermine themselves, and that very much is what this is about.
Yeah. And also, one of the more obvious tropes of noir, I love the score. I love the jazzy score it's again, perfect for the times.
Sure.
But I really did feel like the tragedy of Carney's character plus all the, visual trappings and stuff. Yeah. I'm like, this is kind of a writer noir to me. So.
Oh, I like when Diane Cannon comes in and you immediately assume, well, here's where he's going to be going pretty soon. And they don't come back to that. But you can just fill in the blanks. Oh, yeah. Once his wife left him, he probably just went ahead and just was like, oh, you're now my mate and all this.
Right.
I'm sorry I didn't grab a cap of Diane Cannon or Burt Reynolds.
Oh, I missed Burt Reynolds.
He's doing the read in the room.
Yep. Maybe it's because just his head was a big smear, like everybody else's in this, that made it a little bit difficult to spot.
Yeah.
But
Bert's in the background for the most emotional scene when Max confronts him about firing him.
Oh yeah, I did not notice him.
He's the actor doing the read that Max doesn't care about.
Interesting.
Fair enough. Burt Reynolds ought to have to deal with the fact that all these people in front are better actors.
Yeah.
So we need to discuss this strange, not twist because it's right at the front. But you would think, okay, Rod Serling writes a story about a writer. It would be about this put upon writer, but it's actually about how the writer is a Hollywood phony who is screwing over the real people, his agent. Which is such.
Well, no. The New York agent is pure and good.
Yeah, it's the Hollywood agent who's a monster. But look, what is more a writer than self-hatred, right? Like, I mean, what can you hook into more easily than I'm a piece of human garbage and I'm going to tell a story about that.
My dad hates me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this really autobiographical? I didn't get that.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. I think I'm on a clef. I mean, obviously,
I think it's
little things.
Obviously it's inspired by, but I don't think there are particular, I don't think that he went through these exact things, but he's also, he's looking around him too, presumably. He's very much in this world. And certainly, I think certainly the gist of being, having a relatively sudden success. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like he was just, he's just plunking along on the typewriter and never sold anything. And all of a sudden, he's got this big TV show and it changes overnight. He wrote a lot of little stuff along the way, a bunch of different shows before Patterns, that were just not really, like, no one even noticed, So, I mean, I think it's just taking that and condensing it a bit and making it simple enough to work in the thing.
Ian, is it too early to compare this to the George Axelrod show that you wanted to talk about?
No, not at all. Confessions of a Nervous Man, which so here's the weird thing. Art Carney.
Hold on. There we go.
Confessions of a Nervous Man, 1953. Is this one? This was on Studio One.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is George. Here's the weird thing. So Art Carney plays our main character, a writer. 1953, 6 years before this, Art Carney plays a writer who's
George Axelrod. Yeah.
Yes. Well, here, this is literally autobiographical. It's George Axelrod introduces it. He proves why he's not an actor in that moment.
Or a charismatic human being in any way.
Great writer, though.
Great. And by the way, George Axelrod, people may know him now as the screenwriter for Manchurian Candidate, Breakfast at Tiffany's. But in 1953, he wrote, or 1952, he wrote The 7-Year Itch, which later became a movie with Marilyn Monroe. But at this point, even when this aired, Confessions of a Nervous Man was just a hit play, Broadway, and then touring. And he got to make a show about how that just made him more neurotic. So like the first like real scene is the show, the first showing of 7-Year Itch is done, and they're in this horrible moment where they're waiting for the reviews. They're waiting. What will Brooke Atkinson at the New York Times say? It dollies in on Art Carney playing George Axelrod, and he's just saying, "I want to die. I want to die. I want to die." Like it's such. It really goes into a lot of all those, which I thought this would, about that self-hating, but this is a very playful thing. It's honestly, I think a lot of the comedy is kind of very modern because it's a lot of cutaways, like 30 Rock would do. It actually does a lot of that, which I thought was actually pretty amazing for live television, and kind of like just these fantasy moments. There's a lot of fantasies that he has when he thinks the 7-Year Itch is going to be a hit, and it also touches on how success can be as painful as failure, but in a much more kind of madcap way. And also, Jacqueline Suzanne, the writer of Valley of the Dolls, is in there for a moment doing a very strange accent.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Did you guys see this show as well?
I watched it actually, and forgive the production meeting. I watched it years ago, and I am a massive Axelrod fan, starting with 7-Year Itch and Manchurian Candidate, and that's what intrigued me about seeing it. Maybe we should do it next week. I don't know. It is on YouTube. I just checked right now.
Yeah, no, I watch it. I mean, I have that set too, but I did look up that it was on YouTube. Well, Ian shared the YouTube link to it with us, but I did watch it. No, I do think that we should. I mean, I guess it's not a little unfair to talk about it right now, but Ian and I can talk about it for a minute, and and I think that we can just circle back to it later. Let's do something else next week. But
okay.
I do think that it's. I mean, it's like 180 degree, tonally 180 degrees from the Serling thing. It's approaching the same sort of material, the same sort of somehow dealing with the insecurities of it all. But it's both, the Axelrod one is sort of internal for this guy. Like it's him projecting out all of his insecurities and going back and forth between like feeling overly, confident and arrogant, and then wanting to kill himself or whatever, right? And the Serling one is the weirdest thing about Velvet Alley is how little interior stuff there is from the writer character, right? He is more the kind of cipher character in it, and everybody around him is talking. I think it's just interesting. I don't think it's bad at all. It's kind of an interesting approach, and it also serves the material well because he ultimately is somebody that we don't have loads of sympathy for, right? Like and so that kind of, and skewing it a little bit like that, I think is really good. I mean, as far as the actual play for the actual Confessions of a Nervous Man, yeah. It's okay. It's fine. It's I don't think it's quite as funny as it wants to be. I don't think it's I mean, for me, that was cute, but maybe not always working.
The cool thing that I would recommend everyone do is you see what Art Carney can do, because he's basically given kind of very they're very different tones, but you can see how he's delivering such different performances, even though the guy he's playing is in both cases so similar.
Yeah. Oh, very different. Very different. But you know, and the Axelrod one is much broader, but he's not playing anything like Ed Norton. He's not, you know, he's not really hamming it up there exactly either. But he is, you know, it is impressive that he's able to play these very different tones for what on paper are very similar, you know.
Right. From a trope standpoint, sure. But again, I mean, this Art Carney's the guy. He was the original Felix Unger on stage with The Odd Couple. Very different from Ed Norton. I mean, yeah, you really, people don't give art, because we've all been ingrained with Ed Norton when it's synonymous with Art Carney. We forget all of his great performances. Hell, his Christmas Twilight Zone.
That is
great. But also just like he, you know, I mean, he was in a bunch of, you know, he was in films in the 70s, and he, you know, you know, and like he's a, you know, like in a way, look, I obviously you think of him as, you know, as Ed Norton, but you also just, I mean, for me, I just as much think of all those other things. Like I almost feel like Ed Norton is that character just lives in his own little world, and he's you know, like he embodies that. Whenever he's outside of that, it's like he's a completely different, you know, he doesn't you know, he doesn't bring any of that shtick with him, and
very rare.
He's a very odd, interesting actor in a way.
Very, because I will say, I mean, listen, you're a film buff. You know about Harry and Tano. You know about The Late Show. You know about the original Going in Style. I don't think the general populace does. Those movies are just not in there.
So you're just saying they're a bunch of dummies, right?
No,
like you're taking our audience and you're just slapping them in the face.
No, most. No, it's just that most people don't. I mean, hunt out old Hollywood. I guarantee you, a lot of our listeners and viewers likely do. But I'm just saying,
no, of course. Yeah, I'm just saying you're saying we don't think of him this way, and I'm just saying, well, I mean, I do think about those other roles a lot, and you know, almost as much when I just think about Art Carney, I think about those other roles as Ed Norton, who I kind of think of as its own thing.
That's his strength, is he can go in these other ways. Go ahead, Ian. We've talked about
I want to implore anyone who's watching, listening, do yourself a favor and make yourself a double feature of Inside Llewyn Davis and Harry and Tonto, and give yourself a double feature of actors with orange caps.
You know, Ian, you should also, I was thinking the whole time, like, somebody should do a double feature of this and then Barton Fink after.
Oh
yeah. Another Coen that works really well with it, because they must have thought about it.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
That's great. That's
I was
very,
thinking
very
when Gabe's talking about Serling oddly not writing about the writer, it's like I thought about that when watching it, and I was like, it's kind of obvious why. It's because no one's less interesting than a writer. It's like, you know, I'm sorry, writers are not interesting people. They sit around and absorb things and spit it back out, but they themselves write. That's not interesting. And if you try to film it, it looks stupid. Yeah.
Well, nothing is happening. Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing that works. And Serling wisely avoids a whole lot. Yet he gives you a little bit at the beginning, and I was kind of even dreading, like, oh no, like, is there going to be a lot of this? But that's all there is. And little Mickey Dolenz comes in, runs around the room with an airplane or something, or eats an apple at him or whatever.
And talks about King Kong at him and stuff like that. And, you know, as a way to, like, you know, for him to bring up what he's really writing. Yeah.
Yeah. He sits there, eats in his face, and it's like, it's a good Mickey Dolenz performance. And,
if only we'd been able to get Mickey Dolenz to talk about this. Although, look, I've heard interviews with Mickey Dolenz. He remembers like 8 things from the past, and you know, and I don't think anything else. So I suspect he wouldn't have a lot to contribute about this. But prove me wrong. You know?
Have you guys seen Mickey have you seen him at shows?
No.
Oh my God, it's awesome. When the last time I saw him, he was in a completely white tuxedo, white tie, top hat. It was so.
I would love to see that.
What?
Well, if you're wearing a tuxedo, yeah.
Okay. It was fantastic. It was so fantastic, and he had big hair. He had his big hair.
I did. I mean, I only saw. I went one time. I I went to Largo, and he was in the audience, but he was dressed all in white, but he was just like Tom Wolfe with like a,
Oh, that's
like
funny.
a white fedora or something and a white outfit.
Maybe
But,
I'm misremembering. Maybe it was more Tom Wolfe, but I thought it was the tux and the top hat. But I might be misremembering.
Hey, I
It was
think you should
definitely
just
all
go
white.
with it. I think that look, nobody's gonna prove you wrong.
It was
sounds
Mr.
good.
Rourke.
Yeah,
He was
Yeah.
projecting Mr. Rourke. Actually,
Right.
he was doing live dinner theater Fantasy Island. Yes, yes, tattoo. But no, I've never seen Circus Boy, his prior series to the Monkees, and that was a big '50s show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was prior to this, right? Like he was a little kid on that, and
around the same time. I mean, again, '59. I don't know. Here, I'll look up.
no, I
Circus
think
Boy
it was
all the time.
earlier. I think I looked through his
Probably.
IMDb, and I think it was earlier. But
I
I've never
think
seen it
so.
either. I'm just aware of it. I think he was.
I'm so embarrassed. I've never heard of this.
Well, I think he was credited as Mickey Braddock, which he may be
That's very
credited
true.
as
Yes,
in
sir.
this too. I'm not sure.
Literally, Circus Boy ended the year before this, 1950.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
So there you go. And yeah, Mickey Braddock, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's an episode of the Monkees where it takes place in a circus, and Mickey sings the theme song to Circus Boy. Just a couple of bars of it, and like Nesbitt's like, "What is that?" Oh, it's just a song I know, or whatever. A little nod to the audience and everything. But yeah, Circus Boy was, for 2 seasons. It was something. It was on TV.
It existed. Yeah, we don't know a damn thing about it, but it existed.
I've never been able to find anyone alive who saw it and could tell me about it.
That's the heartbreak of this show, man. Not only trying to find actors and people on it, but even people young enough to have watched or old enough to have watched it as well.
Well, it's like that. I mean, with all this old stuff, it's like the only people around anymore are children, and
right.
And who are child actors,
like Billy Mummy and Mickey, yeah.
Right, and then for the most part, they're kids. They have different priorities than than we're interested in, as far as like
True.
I mean, you want to know about the workings of stuff and how people were and everything, and they're like, well, I was a little kid. I don't know, So
it was interesting to see the agent Freddie, since again, I mostly knew him as playing old stiffs on various shows like Bewitched. To see him as this extremely sleazy agent who's just boasting how he's going to steal him out from under Max.
Yeah. He never played a good guy. Like he never played like a
Larry Tate's as close as we got, and even he was kind of a thorn in Darren's side. So
he was a sort of
he always saw something he couldn't believe, and it needed to be explained.
Yes,
that was it.
Too much.
So, this is going to lead to my question. Does anyone know about like the production of this, and if it faced any challenges, like censorship challenges?
I think as you also did, I had some trouble finding actual behind the scenes information about this. Like I mean, there's just little bits of Serling talking about it, but otherwise not a lot.
Klugman in his oral history television interview didn't talk about Velvet Alley. I couldn't find anything with Carney. I'm glad Ian found this Jack
New York Times review the day after.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring up like censorship, because when is it Earl is Art Carney's name or Edward? It starts with an E.
Oh, it's Ernie.
Ernie.
Yeah. Okay.
Ernie Pandish.
Yeah.
Wrong on both counts. After Ernie is talking to the Chambers people, the agent from the Chambers company, his wife says like something like, "You weren't helped, you were raped," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I could say that back then."
I know, that's right. Yeah, that really stood out too. Like
maybe it was a live TV thing. By the time it was out, They couldn't.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe. That's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't. That's funny. I glossed over that as well.
It stood out to me. I did not enough to that I really thought that through. But yeah, it's true. That's a pretty extreme sort of thing for. I mean, maybe it's the context that made it okay.
Well, you're right though, because this is the era of Anatomy of a Murder, which was banned in several cities because the subject matter was rape.
Yeah, and that was a movie. This is on TV.
This is television. Yeah. So no, that's a fair question, and I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I do wish that I had been able to figure out more about the production of this. I mean, it's Franklin Schaffner again. This is, I think, the second one we've covered that Schaffner directed. He directed the TV version of 12 Angry Men.
Yep.
And then went on to direct Planet of the Apes, the first Planet of the Apes, Patton, other stuff that I can't think of. But he actually, he is one of these directors who, I mean, I think that this is actually a better mounted production than 12 Angry Men. A few years later, the TV, I just think he did it. Just there's a lot more fluidity to it. It feels like more confident in the way that it's staged than 12 Angry Men did.
All the stuff at the Los Angeles house I thought was great.
Yeah, it also has more room to breathe. That it certainly has more sets than the one.
Yeah, and that is obviously part of it too. I mean, that was contained in this one really narrow little area. We're out in Hollywood at the
party
at Television City, right? There are big stages out there, and so
very good point.
They have the ability to build these bigger sets and move the cameras through them, and so I guess the technical side of it is helping him too. But I think he's one of those sort of unsung directors that as I've probably said before, like at a certain point in the 60s and early 70s, Franklin Schaffner was thought of as somebody kind of on the level of like a Kubrick or somebody who was a kind of like prestige, distinctive director, and then everybody forgot about him.
Well, and don't forget the producer too, Herbert Brodkin, who not only shined in Playhouse 90, but also was involved with several of the other great anthologies, the Elgin Hour, the Alcoa Hour, Goodyear Television Playhouse, and then in the 60s moved on, and we mentioned it before, was a big part of the Defenders as well. Yeah. So I mean, I again, top to bottom, great production. And I'm a big, I mean, I love obviously both Planet of the Apes and Patton, and Schaffner's TV work is always fascinating to watch.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like a lot of these guys, this is where he came from, and this is what shaped his sensibilities. So,
it should be noted that in this case, and Planet of the Apes, we both have productions written by Rod Serling, directed by Schaffner, and featuring a main actor screaming towards the heavens at the end. Except in Planet of the Apes, it's to the Statue of Liberty, and in this one, it's to little Mickey Dolenz in the back.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, what do you guys think about the unbelievably bleak ending of this thing, right?
I thought when they kicked into like the Playhouse 90 theme music after that ending, I laughed because it was, they just do something.
Like, that's what you get.
Up next. Yeah. It's like,
yes.
What the fuck did we just?
I'm Barry Nelson. Next week, join us. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the typical arc you would see in one of these sort of things is he has a failure, like with a story or something, and no one will hire him. Then he goes back and can't be taken back by the old crowd or whatever.
Right.
He's still very successful at the end of this story.
But
his own parent doesn't like him anymore, and no one's got time for him because from the old place, he's trying to get his dad to move out with. Come on, move out with me. That's actually. I got really choked up at the end, honestly. I thought it was pretty emotional.
I think that it's interesting that this thing is basically feature length. It's 90 minutes long, but I think that in a feature film version of it, particularly of that time, they would have had to do the things that you're saying, Jeff. They would have had to do those kind of redemptive things. And the fact that this is exactly what interested me in live drama, to want to do this podcast, that you would have a show, they'd have the latitude to do something that is pretty bleak and doesn't have that kind of, that kind of happy or redemptive thing that people feel like you need in order for people to like walk out of a movie and not be bummed. Presumably the fact that they, you're bummed at the end of this, but oh look, there's there's another commercial for Kimberly Clark or whatever, so we're fine.
like that moment when the wife says, "You weren't rewarded, you were raped." That's an act break, and then they go into like I believe that second part is sponsored by your local gas company.
That's right.
Which
Right.
I don't know.
Think
what
about that.
means. Like,
Boy, that bit when Carney just roars at everybody to get the hell out of his house.
yeah.
That's just what a
Yeah.
good moment.
Okay, but I think we also get a little bit too heavy-handed with Rod there, where
Where he gets
where
slapped?
he died. No, where Klugman's character dies the same day that that he wins, that Carney's character wins the Emmy. Like
Right.
it. I feel like that's probably underlining things a little more than it needed to be. But it's fine. But I mean,
then we got a moment where
And the agent's carrying it around.
yeah,
he treats it like a baby.
yeah, and it's not. It's like, yeah, and it's also. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what he's winning the Emmy for, but presumably it's that first script that he wrote, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah, I
the
thought
agent had zero. The Larry Tate agent had zero to do with, right?
Right.
He didn't, so like that's some perfect Hollywood shit there, right?
Yeah.
Like that he didn't even come in until after that show, and he's acting like it's his own personal success. That's such a Hollywoody sort of thing. I think that's
yeah.
very well observed.
Um,
And not heavy-handed in the thing.
right. Regarding the bleak ending, there's another great teleplay that I saw. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but it was a Playhouse. No, it was a Studio One, and it was Albert Salmi, and it was called Control Room. And it's one of those great early anthology shows that did survive on videotape. And it ends with it's about a television director and his pressures putting on an anthology show, and it ends with him really cracking up and being very bleak in the control room and stuff. And it's an amazing play. Patrick McNee is in it, and it's kind of interesting that he's suddenly in LA in this production.
Yeah. Okay, well, shit. Let's see if we can find that. I want to watch that. Because look, I just wonder about, like, does anybody care about this stuff? Like, notoriously behind the scenes movie, the behind the scenes of of the movie business, the TV business, like entertainment business stuff, are never quite that popular because people in the business are more excited about this than people outside of the business.
But they've been going to this stuff, I mean, in a lighthearted way, like Singing in the Rain, but also
Singing in the Rain was a failure at the box office.
Was it?
Yes, yeah. I
didn't know that.
It was. I'm saying this is a pattern in stuff that.
But again, they kept going back to it, like Kirk Douglas was Agony.
We're reviewing a thing right now. I know they made them. I'm saying I'm saying that people don't love them. They're like, it's people in the business think that they're more like that they're fascinating, which they are. But I also work in the movie business, so like I'm not like impartial here. But I just think that I think it's interesting, and I wonder. All I'm saying is I wonder what the reaction to this would be for regular people. Did they care, right? It seems like a kind of tall order to make people care about a guy who is very successful, yet loses it all another way. It seems like surely a certain percentage of the people out there are going, yeah, but look at his house. Why the fuck? Why is this guy so sad?
It is fascinating to me that this is television as a young medium at this time, and we've already seen multiple shows that are about producing television with the comedian, and now this, that it's already turning the camera on itself. Like, just like going back to briefly Confessions of a Nervous Man, like it's literally like, I guess George Axelrod said, like, or someone said to him, "What's your next thing? Can you do something for Studio One? I can make what it's like being me and not even change any of the names." And they're like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah.
It's like,
but it's also it's feeding the beast, guys. I mean, it's again the need of, we need something new every week for 40 weeks, 39 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, but yeah, no, I don't know. I love that stuff though.
I know you do.
And I would love to look at this other control room thing, like and all of these things that are the kind of behind the scenes show business things that like all I was doing was asking whether like civilians would be excited about this or not, or if you can even relate to it. I don't know. But but like I do think that that it's I'm endlessly fascinated by these kind of stories, though.
I hear you, man.
And
I
particularly
want to
how
see a Quiet Game of Cards up on next week's.
Cool. It did kind of look cool.
Is that can we see that?
I
I'll look
do
it up.
not know. I do not know. What it said it was Reginald Rose, right?
Reginald Rose, and it's two of the people from 12 Angry Men. Frank and
it's
the older guy with the mustache.
Yeah, I cannot believe I can't remember.
And also the host of Playhouse 90 is actually in it. Is his name Barry Sullivan?
Yeah, Barry Sullivan.
Actually, it was not Barry Nelson. Barry Sullivan. Yes,
yeah, Barry Nelson. Barry Nelson was Jimmy Bond.
Bond, of course. Yep. Yeah, shame on me. Well, it's not. Those aren't on YouTube, unfortunately. I'm going to see if Daily Motion has both Control Room, because I remember seeing it. As I've told you guys before, the Decades Digital channel was running Studio One for like over a year, and I would just, and it was on at like 4 a.m. my time. And I would just DVR it and watch it. And that's where I saw Control Room. So I don't know if, again, it exists. Maybe somebody grabbed it and put it on Daily Motion. I'm not sure.
We need to break into Decades office, get their tapes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You're right. No, I don't see it. I don't think I see it here on any place.
Oh, it's too bad, because that sounded like it would be a good one.
Yeah, and Game of Cards, right? Quiet Game of Cards?
A Quiet Game of Cards.
Quiet Game of Cards.
Playhouse 90.
Oh, it was E.G. Marshall, right? And because he's in the movie version of 12 Angry Men.
That's getting my wires crossed.
But that did look particularly interesting. So just so we don't fall into doing a podcast or YouTube show or whatever this is that's about Googling. We should probably continue to talk about something, or be done.
There's three of you. Feel free. Yes. Anybody else have any closing thoughts on this? I mean, I thought it was really good. I thought that, Rod's way of going into some heavy-handed stuff, rears its head, and some sentimental stuff, absolutely. But overall, thought it was really good. Yeah. I can't say enough about Klugman. I think Klugman was so good in this. I think that he kind of like outshined everybody else, even though everybody else was really good too.
Yeah.
Here's how good Jack Klugman is in this. There's a moment where he has to say, "My name's Max. It's not Jack," and it's totally believable, even though his name is actually Jack.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
But
so
when
next
I heard
week,
that, I'm like, wait, what? How bad is this thing going to get?
So next week, Gabe and I were thinking, guys, person to person, Edward R. Murrow's interview show, because that was a very significant 1950s show. And I have a feeling we could find, whether it's Marilyn Monroe or Jerry Lewis or some of the great celebrity interviews he did. This was the celebrity interview show that CBS wanted him to do. And he's like, fine, as long as I can still do See It Now, which was the 60 Minutes of its day in News Magazine. It was not, he performed his parts live, but then would cut to film on See It Now of the correspondence in the field and stuff. But person to person really was them taking the cameras, take him to a person's home, and Ed would sit chain smoking in the studio. And hello there, Groucho.
Is there an advisory for smoking with this?
Yeah.
They're going to be
like the Beatles, like Let It Be.
Yeah.
Right. Or the Get Back thing. Yeah. Where they
get it back. Get back. Of course. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Warning, people are smoking.
Yeah, I know. It is funny. It is funny how shocking smoking is to everybody now. But, maybe the fact that I never watch anything prior or, after like 1980 makes it a little bit less, a thing for me.
Why, man. How come they don't put that disclaimer at the beginning of Casablanca? Warning, Humphrey Bogart smoking 70 years ago. It's like, relax. Jesus.
I think like the Beatles thing, it's a Disney Plus
Yeah, it's on Disney
That's
Plus.
the only. You're right.
Also,
Jeff,
I'm
you're
not.
right. That's a good
I'm not threatened by by
The
little things
Netflix
that little cards to put in front of a movie. So I'm
Wow.
not worried about it. They can put a little thing up saying, "Oh my God, there's smoking in Casablanca." Not going to hurt Casablanca.
No.
Casablanca is a better movie than that. It's still
Yeah.
going to be entertaining, and you're not going to remember that little car. If you're still fuming, no pun intended. If you're still upset about the fucking little placard at the beginning of it, after like they're at the airport, and and we have the greatest series of shots in any movie ever, and we're rounding up the usual suspects, then that's a problem. But
With the little people driving little cars to force perspective in the
yeah.
The Germans
Also
wore
the-
gray, you wore blue, and I smoked Lucky Strike.
Also, Humphrey Bogart's little tiny piano that when you
Dude,
notice
listen.
Armstrong's like jammed into that thing. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's so little because Bogart needs something he can lean on, not a
Yeah,
tall
and he's-
man.
yeah, 3'9", right? Like that was he was a tiny little man.
Hilarious.
I will say,
All right.
folks, if you're following along, I would really appreciate it if you do. I know it's short notice, but there is a person-to-person DVD set out there. It's actually both that and the Studio One are put out by the Academy. The people we talk about who do, well, one, they put on the Emmys, but who do those interviews with people like Jack Klugman actually put these out. So
those oral histories of television, absolutely. I'm hoping to have Dan Pasternak on my podcast in January, one of the interviewers for a lot of the Academy interviews.
Please ask him what's up, and I find this so charming and lovely. But in a lot of those interviews, they start with the person doing the interview like sitting next to the person and going like, "Hi, I'm this person, and I'm interviewing Leonard Nimoy. It's January 1989," and then there's a brief moment that's so awkward and weird where they're just in silence, and then it goes into the interview, and you never see you hear them. You never see the host again.
See, like at one point I had, and I believe that this was somebody that Jeff knows, the guy from comic book store out in the valley, who whose like wife maybe had something to do with these things. Like somebody I met, I don't expect you to remember, but like somebody, I met somebody and told them who worked on those things, right? And I was like, I'd love to do one of those interviews. I'm dying to do one of those interviews where like 8-hour interviews with people about this thing, right? And then she was like, "Great, you could do that." Just gave me the information and everything, and then I got too busy with stuff and I blew it and I never did it. And it's like one of the few regrets of my life. I've got many regrets, but that's one of them.
I just watched Dan Pasternak's one with Stanley Ralph Ross, great television writer, a lot of Batman episodes.
I'm doing that. That's going to be my weekend, is watch it. He's on Batman.
Yes, he is.
He plays a small role as like a card shark or something or
something I don't remember, but yeah, he wrote the first Julie Newmar Catwoman and also an Eartha Kitt Catwoman. Did a lot of the Catwoman episodes, but also great voice actor. Was on Challenge of the Super Friends. Was both Gorilla Grodd and Brainiac.
Well,
among his credits.
He basically created for television the Wonder Woman show.
That's right.
But also, I don't know, like for some reason, that's just one of the names I keep seeing on classic television. He is responsible for what I consider one of the best 90 minutes of television, the Donald Pleasance episode of Columbo.
Yes.
Which is maybe one of the best Columbos, and I wish they kept Donald Pleasance character as it was like a regular character where he would visit in jail. If I would ever relaunch Columbo, it'd be weird because Peter Falk and Donald Pleasance are dead. I would have them like be friends. Like it'd be like
well, it's just a deep fake sort of thing that you could
that's right.
We're millimeters away from doing.
He clearly liked him in the show.
Oh, absolutely. Ross wanted Orson Welles to play that role, and they couldn't afford him. And Pleasance was suggested to him. He was, I guess, notorious for doing a pilot for a show and then being like, I don't want to be involved with the rest of the show. See you later. And go on to the next freelance job. And Columbo, he obviously pitched. He might have even pitched another one as well. But I know he said that he wanted Orson Welles originally to be the winemaker instead of Donald Pleasance. But he obviously is like, God, Pleasance knocked it out of the park. The chemistry between Falk and him were amazing. Yeah, he was very interesting.
Yeah, wasn't there something like there was like a $10,000 or $12,000 cap on the amount of money that they would pay a guest star on Columbo, and they would, And so anybody goes above that, nope, we're not doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Also, if Orson Welles was the killer, it would be much easier to catch him because Columbo would see like, you sold this wine before it's time, and that's how you know he did it.
Nice.
Wow.
The French. That great.
The French. All right,
we can wrap up. Next week, person to person, everybody. We haven't decided on the guest star, but really the format of person to person. Lots of episodes on YouTube of person to person. A great.
We will pick out some particular ones so that we can talk about them.
Of course. But in the meantime, I appreciate Edward R. Murrow, one of my journalistic heroes. Very fascinating man.
Before we go, John, I just have to thank you for one thing. Actually putting me in the right spot with the word balloon thing. This is where I'm supposed to be in the scheme of this thing. I'm always getting shunted to some other spot. I stopped complaining at a certain point, so I'm just appreciating the fact that you put me in the right place.
I will work on that better next time.
You need to have a special like black and white version of the word balloon logo.
Oh, you know what? You're right. We got to work on that too.
All right. Well, you're right. Or I could just get a Kinescope icon. You're right about that. But here, a little camera trick before we leave. Boom. All right. A little closer. Now it's pulled back. Boom. Did it do it? No. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
There you go.
Subtle but effective.
I thought I saw somebody walk through the background of Ian's living room, so that was weird.
Oh shit. Oh
the
yeah,
call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah, who's in there with you, Ian? Like we all saw it.
Oh, this is taking a turn for the. This is it's turned into a Twilight Zone episode.
Okay. So anyway, sleep well, Ian, and we'll see everybody next week.
Bye everybody.
Our report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into